Hmm.
Hi, good morning. When you joined the webinar, can you please make sure that your line is muted? Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. It's a
We have about 36 people that have enrolled, but they will have to join us as we move forward. Thank you very much again for joining us today. This is the second webinar in the onboarding series for new grantees. Most of you, particularly the administrators, were part of the orientation webinar we conducted last week. And this is the first webinar that will specifically deal with the grantee manual. So as we mentioned last week, we have a grantee manual 2023 grantees. It will be published either today or tomorrow. As soon as it's published and it's included on the partner guide on Illinois WorkNet, you will receive the link so that you can access it. I encourage you to read through it. The manual contains all the guidance, requirements, and also recommendations related to Illinois Works. Whenever we do compliance checks on a monthly basis, we use the grantee manual to ensure that grantees are following the standards and the guidance that is outlined in the manual. So that's as a way of introduction. So thanks again and welcome to the Illinois Works Grantee Manual Webinar 1. As I mentioned, there will be 3 webinars related to the Grantee Manual. This is number 1. Thank you again for taking the time for being with us today. As I mentioned, the 2023 Grantee Manual, which will be published today or tomorrow, has a total of 14 sections. Today, we will be covering the first 3 sections of the manual. But the rest of the sections will be covered in the next 4 weeks as we deliver the other webinars. My name is Norman Ruano, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Illinois Works here at DCEO, and I will be delivering part of this webinar today. But with me today are several other team members that will be part of this webinar. We have Dr. Yolanda Clark from NIU, who will be delivering some of the content. Yolanda, if you could please say hi to our audience today.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today with you.
Thank you, Yolanda. We also have Christine Flynn from the Office of Illinois Works, who will also be delivering some of the content today.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope you're all doing well this morning.
Thank you, Christine. We also have Dr. Gia Suggs from NIU today who will be conducting our evaluation. Gia, if you could please say hi.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, and it's good to see so many of you all again.
We also have Dan Martinez today from the Office of Illinois Works, who's also part of the team working at this webinar today. Dan, if you could please say hi.
Good morning, everyone. Really excited about this content and look forward to this session. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dan. We also have Dr. Verlee Robinson today, who is with NIU as one of our program coaches. Verlee, if you could please say hi to the audience today.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Thanks, Verlee. So something that is very, very important, and we will continue to emphasize throughout these webinars and throughout the year, is obviously the origins of Illinois Works, how it operates in conjunction with the rest of the other programs that this office has. So Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan and his commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. As an Illinois grantee, as an Illinois Works grantee, you are now a part of this exciting new initiative that will create opportunities for Illinois businesses, communities, and families. Illinois Works consists of three key programs. The Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program is the second program that was implemented as part of this effort. And so is the first program, which is the apprenticeship initiative. This training today is the first of a three-part series that reviews each section of the 2023 Grantee Manual to ensure grantees can effectively implement the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. And as I mentioned, today we're going to be dealing specifically with the first three sections of the manual. So for the next 3 hours, we will cover the first three sections of the 2023 Grantee Manual. You can see them being pointed to you on the screen. And you will be receiving the link either today or tomorrow for the Grantee Manual so that you can access it and download it. As we go through the Grantee Manual, we'll talk about various, resources available in the manual, but more importantly, we'll discuss the guidance that is included. So the first three sections we're going to be covering today include Section 1, which is Introduction to Illinois Works. Section 2, which is Program Culture, the type of program culture we expect for programs to drive. And then Section 3 will discuss partnerships, provider relationships, and leverage resources. So those are the three sections that we'll be covering today. And our objectives, so by the end of this webinar today, you'll be able to describe the relationship between DCEO and Illinois Works, identify Illinois Works through three key programs, reference Illinois Works definitions, articulate the Illinois Works program core values, measure cultural elements, which are for the success of the Illinois Works and its equity focus. Please. Gee, I'm still looking at the original slide. Okay, there you go. Incorporate diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity into your program design. This is a very important part of our program, so we'll spend quite a bit of time discussing this. Comply with legal expectations, particularly related to various aspects that impact our students and participants in the field. Explain the critical role of partners, differentiate between partners and providers, implement an MOU, particularly with your partners, and overcome barriers to successful partnerships. So those are the objectives of this webinar. Please, this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available for review on our Illinois Works Partner Guide website. The Illinois Works Partner Guide website includes all the resources available to you. That's where the Grantee Manual will be included, but also all webinars and other resources that we put together for your information and use will be included there. We are now sharing the link to the Illinois Works Partner Guide in the chat. So if you have not gone there, I encourage you to to do so using the link that we have provided in the chat for you. Any questions before we proceed to our next section? If you do have any questions, please feel free to unmute your line or post a question in the chat. And do you see any questions in the chat? Or Christine, I'm sorry, do you see any questions in the chat?
I don't have any questions in the chat, Norman.
Okay, great. Again, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself or put the questions in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to address them. Now, to section 2, by the end of this section, you'll be able to identify what you hope to learn in this module. So what we're going to do is ensure that everybody knows the technology that we're using today. I know most of you were part of our webinar last week, but some of you were not. Some of you are new to our systems. So I want to quickly tell you about the technology that we're using and the features that it has before we move on to some of the content in this section. So this technology is WebEx. WebEx is the technology that we use here at DCEO. A little different than other tools that are used in the market, but it does have a mute and unmute button. Please make sure your line is muted at all times, unless you're asking a question, and we give you an opportunity at very particular times to ask the question. It also has a feature to stop or start your video. This is specifically for your own camera. It's not for recording. We're doing the recording ourselves through a different feature. You could also raise your hand. You can see the feature at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand if you're interested in doing so. It also has a whole suite of emojis if you're interested in reacting to some of the content, some of the activities that we're doing. And very importantly, obviously, it has a chat feature. In case you want to ask any questions, you can see it there. Right-hand bottom corner of the screen, you'll be able to see the chat. And also it has a groups feature that we're not going to be using today, so that different groups can go and conduct activities on a group-by-group basis, but we're using that feature in webinars. And you should know that that feature exists within WebEx. To help facilitate the best experience, please keep your line muted to help manage potential interruptions during the training. The line can be unmuted during question and answer sessions or group discussions. If you have a comment or a question, please share it in the chat or unmute yourself. The question and answer sessions at the end of each of the training sections of this webinar. We will try to respond to as many questions as you may have, any comments that you may have today within the time frame that we have, but sometimes if you want more extensive responses or need other resources, please feel free to send us an email. The email address that you're seeing on your screen is our general email address for the Office of Illinois Works, ceo.illinoisworks@illinois.gov. But at the same time, Monday, you will receive your grant manager assignment. You will know by Monday who your Illinois Works grant manager will be, and you will also receive their contact information, and you can communicate with them directly in case you have any questions. We also use, as part of our delivery here, a technology called Mentimeter, and you will notice on your screen we're providing the URL here for Mentimeter. If you could please, at this moment, take a moment to log Mentimeter, www.menti.com, and enter the code on your screen, 45620577. Again, 45620577. We have also provided this information in the chat right now. If you could just please take a minute to log on, because we're going to be using Mentimeter quite a bit during the delivery of this webinar. This will allow you to participate during training as well as feedback at the end of the training. So here's something that is also important. We have a strong program improvement philosophy and system at the Office of Illinois Works, and we want to ensure that we get feedback from you related to the training and the other types of activities that we do for the development of our grantees. So if you could please make sure that you stay with us all the way to the end so that you can provide feedback through our evaluation at the end of the webinar. So hopefully you have had an opportunity already to um, uh, to uh, join to log on to Mentimeter using the code that we provided. So moving on, we would like to know who is with us. You could please use the chat and tell us the name of your organization, your name, the role that you play in the organization, and where you're located. So this would allow for the rest of the colleagues that are on the call to be able to know who else is here today and where you're from. So again, if you could please right now using the chat feature, tell us your name, your organization name, the role that you play there, and also the geographic location, your geographic location. Okay, so who's gonna start? I don't see anybody's information in the chat box. Do you, Christine?
Norman, they have logged into Mentimeter and they're answering in Mentimeter, so I'll share the Mentimeter screen.
Oh, okay. So we have Ashley from Rincon, Chicago. We have Janet from Metropolitan Family Services, also in Chicago. Adam, Richland Community College in Decatur. Thanks for joining us today. We have Des from Hood in Chicago. William from Richland Community College, also in Decatur. Tanya from Awaken Foundation in Rockford. Thanks for joining. We have Alejandro de la Luz, St. Augustine College in Chicago. Dr. Priscilla Palmer, Student Sports Service Coordinator. I don't know what organization that is. Mount Montauk from Project Hood, also in Chicago. Carrie, Associated Builders and Contractors, Springfield, Illinois. Michelle, Denville Area Community College from Denville, Illinois. Community Assistance Programs. I don't see the name of the person. Suzette from Workforce Development Director at ABC, Illinois. There, Lou from St. Augustine College here in Chicago. Young from Impact Global in Quincy, Illinois. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Barbara Wright from Impact Global, again from Quincy, Illinois. Greg from Cherniff Green and Green Construction, and Structure from the ACC, also in Denville, Illinois. Alicia Martin from Associated Builders and Contractors, also in Springfield. Pamela Brown from Awaken Foundation in Rockford. Johnny from Metropolitan Family Services in Chicago. Let's see, Merrick from Metropolitan Family Services, also in Chicago. Dr. Priscilla Palmer is from Richland Community College in Decatur. So thanks again for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you all here. We will ensure that as we, continue to deliver these webinars, you have an opportunity through other webinars and activities to get to know each other a little more, as we want to make sure that we develop a good group dynamic and we work together, leverage each other resources and expertise to ensure Illinois Works is as successful as it can be. Now, using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. What excites you about the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program? What excites you about the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program? What excites you about the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program? Do you see any responses, Gia, in Mentimeter?
No, not yet.
So what excites you about the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program? Is there anything that excites you about the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program?
Norman, it's saying to press C here to voting is closed, press C to open. So this might be, okay, try voting now.
Okay, I don't see any responses. I imagine that there may be an issue with the technology here. Um, oh, here they are. Employment opportunities, industry recognized credentials. Yes, certainly. New year, uh, possibilities, community impact, for sure. Community impact about Illinois Works, changing lives. That is definitely at the heart of what we do here at Illinois Works. Serving diverse populations. Yes, certainly. This is the right place to do that. Um, Providing opportunities, working with local unions. That is certainly focus also of our program, ensuring that we connect with local unions, but also non-union DOL register apprenticeship programs. Um, Purpose, certainly. Uh, Helping people succeed. Yes, that's part of what we do here. Uh, NCCR certifications, that is certainly one of the curricula that our programs accepts as part of the curricula that you can use. Inclusive, helping employment options, careers. Uh, these are all great things that definitely not only excite you, but also excite us to do this type of work on a daily basis. Everything that you're saying there, it's part of our vision. And as we go through the grantee manual, you'll be able to see that, you know, what we do here is all focused on ensuring that people have opportunities, have career options, have the ability to provide for themselves and their families, and also impact their communities. So thank you very much for participating. I'm still seeing responses that are coming through. Uh, Next, in using also Mentimeter, please tell us if there is anything in particular that you're hoping that we cover today, so that we know that we're either going to cover it today or direct you to some other resources so that you can learn about it. So again, using Mentimeter, if you could please answer the question on the screen. Is there anything in particular you're hoping we covered today? Is there anything in particular? I want to learn more about the program. Yes, certainly. We're going to be covering all aspects of this program. Best practice. We're going to cover best practices, but also related to how certain things need to be done. Recruitment and enrollment parameters. We will definitely discuss that and how the guidelines related to that, how our systems and our technology have to be used related to that, how to successfully implement the program. You will definitely hear every imaginable aspect related to this program and how to implement it. Where to begin? We will certainly talk about that, particularly when we discuss the pre-apprentice life cycle, and you'll definitely be able to see how where to begin and the steps to follow. Um, Updates on the Illinois Works data entry. We will definitely discuss that. We'll discuss some of the IWRS technology, there is a particular IWRS webinar that we're delivering next week, so you may want to ensure you're enrolled for that one. How to properly upload supporting documents needed. We will definitely discuss part of that today, but we will also discuss that in future webinars and also show you through IWRS how to do that. Opportunity after the pre-apprenticeship program. We will discuss some of the requirements related to transitioning students also. Day-to-day processes, monitoring retention, maintaining retention. We will definitely discuss all of that, some of the practices that are needed, some of the guidance related to that. Next steps to get the program started. Yes, partnering with contractors and apprenticeship programs. We will certainly discuss all of that. So everything that you have indicated here today, we are going to be covering today or in future webinars in the next week or two. So please make sure that as you continue to learn more about Illinois Works, particularly once you're able to read a lot of the grantee manual, that you join all of those sessions so that you're fully aware of what's expected and also some of the best practices from other programs. Supportive services, yes, that is a key part of our program, and we will certainly cover that in webinars that are coming. So thanks again for sharing. Are there any questions or comments before we move on to the next section, Christine?
Yes, we do have one question, and it's when did you say we should hear from our appointed grant manager?
You will be hearing next week, no later than Monday, about who your Illinois Works grant manager will be, and they will also communicate with you so that you have the contact information, name, contact information, and you can start communicating with them. So next Monday is when you will hear about that. Any other questions or comments?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, great. Moving on to module 3 of this webinar. This particular module will deal with Illinois Works, and this is section 1 of the Grantee Manual. So section 1 of the Grantee Manual is an introduction to Illinois Works. So in this particular module, we're gonna discuss, after you complete this module, you'll be able to articulate the mission of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, explain how the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act supports the governor's 5-year economic plan, describe the benefits of apprenticeship programs. Those are the 3 key objectives that we have right now for this particular module. Let us start then with section 1 of the Illinois Works 2023 Grantee Manual. The Illinois Works, as I mentioned earlier, was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan. And it's very important to emphasize this because Illinois Works, the pre-apprenticeship program, is not the only program in this bureau. And these programs work together. In that capital plan, which is $45 billion that are being invested in construction projects, roads, schools, hospitals, community centers, various other types of facilities throughout the state. Those $45 billion is what we're leveraging to create opportunities, job opportunities for our graduates. And this program is called Rebuild Illinois. And through that program, Governor Pritzker is committed to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. In other words, we want to make sure that as we execute these $45 billion worth of capital projects, that there's opportunity for all Illinois residents. This is a top priority of the governor's 5-year economic plan. With this new capital funding set to pave the way for tens of thousands of jobs over the next decade, the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act was intentionally designed to increase equity and opportunity in capital construction jobs. As I mentioned earlier, the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act, which is the law that created all of to connect with this Rebuild Illinois capital program, $45 billion capital program. And we will provide in a minute a little bit more detail of how that gets done, but it's important to know that it's part of a larger picture. It's not just a pre-apprenticeship program. It's not just another training program in the state of Illinois. It's actually part of a larger context, a larger investment, and larger perspective related to workforce development. The intention is to reinvigorate the workforce in Illinois for years to come. We will provide on the chat now the link if you're interested in reading the economic plan. You can certainly find the information there and get all the details. What's important about Illinois Works is that it's an innovative model of workforce development. And as I mentioned, what's key here is that it's not just a pre-apprenticeship program. It actually has three components, three different programs: job demand, talent pipeline, and then incentives to hire and retain. Typically, you find workforce development systems with either one of these components. Generally, talent pipeline is the one that workforce development systems work with, but sometimes you can see incentives to hire and retain included in the system. When it comes to Illinois Works, we are a very unique model because it includes all of the three components. And it's specifically designed to create a comprehensive response to workforce development from various angles. So we have a job demand component, we have a talent pipeline component, and we also have incentives to hire and retain. As a result, Illinois Works is one of a kind initiative, and it's in a very unique position to make a big difference in the state of Illinois, particularly for underrepresented populations. So, this model then is implementing three different programs. We'll discuss those later on in more detail, and you will be able to see programs work with each other. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about how, the relationship between DCEO, the Office of Illinois Works, the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act, and how all of this works together. So to access DCEO information, you can go to the DCEO website. We're going to be putting the URL in the chat for you so that you can go to the website and you'll be able to see all the programs that DCEO offers. The site has been updated. In case you were in the site a few months ago, the state of Illinois went through a whole update of the websites for the state. So this site has been updated. So make sure that you have the correct URL to access it. So once you go to the site, you could type Illinois Works in the search engine and or also select it from the list. If you go to About Us, you're going to be able to also see the list of bureaus that DCEO has, but you could, if you want to go an easy way, you could just enter it in the search part of the website. Then when you select Illinois Works, you're going to be able to see the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act page. And there is where you're going to find all of the programs under the Office of Illinois Works. You will see on your screen right now, this is the page, this is the landing page. To your left, you will see the menu with all of the programs, the apprenticeship initiative, the construction pre-apprenticeship program, the bid credit program. All of those links have information related to these programs. So the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities mission is to support and maintain a climate that enables a strong economy for our customers, taxpayers, businesses, workers, and communities by keeping and attracting and growing businesses and maintaining a skilled workforce and enhancing communities so that the climate here is one in which businesses, small and large, and their workers can succeed to the greatest extent possible. So as a result, DCO delivers impactful and efficient programs and services. A huge amount of programs and services for specifically dedicated for the business community, the workforce, and communities throughout the state of Illinois. So using Mentimeter, if you could please answer, who does DCO serve? Based on the mission that I just mentioned about DCO, who do we serve? The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, who do we serve? Again, if you could please use Mentimeter and answer the question there. Who do we serve? Community, everyone. Yeah, everyone. You know, we all pay taxes. We definitely serve taxpayers, so we definitely serve everyone. But who do we serve? Which specific communities? The unemployed, we certainly serve the unemployed. Employers, definitely very important. Employers are very important to the equation. Minorities, we definitely serve minorities. Underserved populations, definitely. Um, Underrepresented groups, definitely. Veterans are a group that we also serve significantly. Low income people, yes. Um, let's see. Illinoisans, yes, definitely. At-risk populations, yes, definitely. At-risk populations are served through some of our programs. They can join. They can even join the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Um, Businesses, employers, everyone. Cert- you certainly get the point that we are covers a lot of ground and serves a lot of different people. So thanks for participating. Our clients, our customers include taxpayers, um, businesses, workers, and communities. You mentioned them all, and that is definitely correct. Now, the Office of Illinois Works, which is a new bureau within DCO, is housed, as I mentioned, at DCO, and it came about as a result of the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act and the governor's 5-year economic plan. Unfortunately, data shows that for too long, the construction industry and the trades have not been accessible for diverse communities. In fact, fewer than 10% of the best paid apprenticeships in Illinois are extended to women and racial and ethnic minorities in the state. With this new capital funding set to pave the way for thousands of new jobs over the next decade, the Jobs Program Act, the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act, again was intentionally designed to change this reality and to ensure that capital construction projects give opportunities to everybody. This is very important. So when you talk about Illinois Works, you're talking about the bureau, the office within DCO that is particularly focused on ensuring that construction in the state of Illinois in the trades are equitable for everybody, including women, underrepresented populations such as uh, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, and also veterans. Those are the target populations that we have. So we are laser focused on ensuring that there's equity and inclusion for those groups in the construction industry. So the General Assembly, as you know, which includes the House and the Senate in Illinois, passed the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act on June 28, 2019. So as you can see, it's a very recent law and a very recent focus. Through the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act, the Illinois General Assembly appropriated funds for the pre-apprenticeship program. And that's a very important aspect here. Before this law, the funding for pre-apprenticeship programs in the state of Illinois through state funding was not sustainable. I mean, that funding would happen once in a while and only for small periods of time or short periods of time. With this new law, a sustainable mechanism for funding was passed, and that's how your grants and future grants related to pre-apprenticeship programs are being funded through the appropriation that was created through the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act. So again, this act, it's a statewide initiative to ensure that all Illinois residents, and again, all, meaning here everybody, all minorities, women included, have access to state capital projects and careers, including the construction industry and the trades. The goal is to provide contracting and employment opportunities to historically underrepresented populations in the construction industry. And one thing that we want to emphasize is the word careers. We are not interested in getting people just their next job. We're interested in creating for them career opportunities. You will notice as we go through the grantee manual that the primary focus of Illinois Works is to ensure that people are transitioned to DOL registered apprenticeship programs. That's what we call our primary goal, because it is through those DOL registered apprenticeship programs that they can get a career in the construction industry and the trades. You can access the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act from the Illinois General Assembly website. We are providing now the link for you in the chat so that you can access it there in case you want to read through the law that actually created the Office of Illinois Works and also the programs that we're going to be discussing today. So again, as I mentioned, the trades have not been fully accessible to diverse communities throughout time. And as a result, we have huge disparities in the construction industry. Soon we're going to be talking about some of those numbers that are so relevant here, particularly for women, minorities, when, I mean, the disparities are so large. Definitely have a lot of work to do here at the Office of Illinois Works in partnership with you. The goal is to expand apprenticeship opportunities with a targeted focus on underrepresented populations, specifically women, people of color, and veterans. That is how the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act defines underrepresented populations. Again, women, people of color, and veterans. That does not mean that we exclusively serve women, people of color, and veterans, but it does mean that that is the target that we have. An expansion of apprenticeship opportunities will not only help boost employment reaches for more Illinois residents, but it will also yield significant benefit to our economy at large, since the construction sector is projected to grow at 12% in the next 10 years. On average, jobs in the construction sector pay $18 per hour to apprentices enrolled in DOL registered apprenticeship programs and $32 per hour to those that successfully achieve journey worker status. Investments in job training in the construction industry also result in significant long-term economic impact for the state of Illinois, totaling $1.2 billion. In fact, for every dollar invested in construction job training, Illinois obtains $11 in social and economic returns. So as you can see, not only is this sector beneficial in terms of wages and career opportunities, it also has a lot of benefits, significant long-term impact for the state in general. And the investment in these types of programs is definitely an investment that is worthwhile given the dollar amounts that we see in return. I must say, and it's very important to emphasize at this particular moment, that Illinois Works has, if not the highest, one of the highest rates in the state of Illinois for workforce development programming. On average, we give our grantees $10,000 per participant. The only other program that we know in the state of Illinois that provides higher levels of funding is Youth Build, which is a federally funded program. But there are only a handful of Youth Build programs in the state of Illinois. So by far, we have some of the highest funding levels in the whole state of Illinois, which again resulted from the passing of this law and the establishment of these programs. So again, the intention is to reinvigorate the workforce in the state of Illinois for the future. One of the key concerns that we have is that we want to make sure that there is a talent pipeline consistent and well-skilled for years to come as more and more baby boomers retire from the construction sector. Having a talent pipeline is going to become a challenge. So this exciting new initiative will create opportunities for Illinois businesses, communities, and families. So again, as I mentioned before, Illinois Works is a top priority for the governor's 5-year economic plan and also for the governor's office. We constantly have to brief the governor's office on the progress of Illinois Works. Now, using Mentimeter, if you could please answer the question on your screen. How do apprenticeship programs impact individuals, families, communities, and businesses? How do apprenticeship programs impact individuals, families, communities, and businesses? And here we're talking about apprenticeship programs, not so much pre-apprenticeship programs, but pre-apprenticeship programs are specifically to transition people 2 apprenticeship programs. So we're starting to see responses here for financial security. Definitely, individuals that become apprentices and later on become journeymen, journeywomen, uh, definitely develop job security. Some of the benefits that these programs, these trades pay are very good. Some of them include pensions. Nowadays, pensions are not common, but some of those programs include that. Obviously, good uh, benefits, also good wages. Uh, Quality training, yes, certainly, training there takes a while. Some programs take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, but at the end, individuals that join those programs not only get a lot of hands-on experience, but also quite a bit of training in the classroom. Better opportunities, definitely better opportunities, decent living wages. Actually, the wages that they get to make are very good wages. Some of those journeymen out there can make an average $75, $80 per hour with experience. So some of those wages are actually very good wages that they can earn if they're able to successfully complete their programs. Increase in skilled uh, workers, yes, that's one of the keys here that apprenticeship programs provide a skilled workforce, which is very important for the sustainability of any economic sector. Um, let's see, better communities. Certainly, when people are able to have better jobs, better careers, they invest in their communities, they buy homes. Obviously, that impacts, the tax base, which impacts schools and impacts safety and security in these places. So there's a lot of impacts that apprenticeship programs have, not only for individuals, but their families and communities. So thanks again for participating. Any questions in the chat before we proceed to the next section, Christine?
We do not have any questions in the chat at this time.
Okay, great. So once again, just to remind you, if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat, or at particular moments like now, when we're giving you an opportunity, you can unmute yourself and ask any question, make any comment that you have. Going on to section number 4, module number 4, which will be the last module that I delivered today. At the end of this section, you'll be able to list the 3 key Illinois Works job programs that together create a unique and innovative 3-pronged workforce development model. You'll be able to describe each of the DCO Office of Illinois Works programs, the Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program. More importantly, you're going to be able to articulate how they work together to create a change, a very important change to the workforce. So again, there are 3 key programs that are implementing. The 3 key programs are the Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program. And each of these programs addresses one of the components that I mentioned earlier. There's a demand component, there's a talent pipeline component, and then there is an incentive to hire and retain component. So we will discuss each of these programs now more in depth and then see how they all work together to bring about the change that we need in the Illinois workforce, particularly related to construction and the trades. Let's start then with the Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative. So this particular program is the program that addresses the demand component of the model. So moving on to the next slide. So you can see there in the puzzle, there is demand, talent pipeline, and incentives to hire and retain. The Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative addresses the demand. And how does it do that? Applies to public works projects with an estimated cost of $500,000 or more, including including capital grants, loans, and direct capital contracts and awards. But again, how does it do that? It requires that for projects that qualify, projects that are 500,000 or more, the goal is for U.S. Department of Labor certified apprentices, not limited to pre-apprenticeship graduates from the Illinois Works program, to perform 10% of the total labor hours actually worked in each prevailing wage category, or 10% of the estimated labor hours in each prevailing wage category, whichever is less. So what does that mean? That means that whenever the state is funding a particular project, let's say a community center that is worth $1 million, and there are different trades that are working on that community center, meaning electricians, carpenters, plumbers, operators, laborers. Uh, 10% of the hours on that project for each of those trades. The goal is that apprentices will execute that 10%, that they will have apprentices doing 10% of the hours for that project. By having an established goal, contractors then generally find themselves in need to hire more apprentices, resulting in higher demand for apprentices. So through that 10%, then contractors now, you know, may have to hire apprentices. Some of them may have apprentices, some of them may not. So they may have to hire apprentices. And that then results in an increased demand for apprentices. If there is an increased demand for apprentices in different places throughout the state of Illinois, then our graduates have an opportunity to help fill that demand. So that's how we start to change the system. Not only are we graduating them, but through this program, which is called the Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative, we are creating a demand so that when they graduate, we then work on matching them with job opportunities. So that's the Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative. What is the current status of this program? Because again, all of the Illinois Works programs, uh, you notice the law was just passed in 2019, and the Illinois Works Bureau within DCEO, it's a new bureau. So the apprenticeship initiative is fully operational and is presently working on the compliance of state agencies. So the apprenticeship initiative was launched in June of 2020. We are presently seeing the implementation of over 1,000 projects worth over $8 billion. So right now, the state is executing throughout the whole state of Illinois over 1,000 projects worth more than $8 billion. And we are watching through this program the compliance of those projects to ensure that the demand is being created. As part of the Illinois Works commitment to continuous quality improvement, in August of 2021, we launched a new system that allowed us to transition from a manual quarterly reporting and compliance system to a real-time reporting system that utilizes Smart Sheets technology. So now we have the state of Illinois it is using this platform uh, that is very user-friendly, intuitive, and it allows for state agencies to report their compliance, to tell us which projects need to comply, would tell us what progress they're made on compliance, to be able to close out the compliance for various projects. What's very important to keep in mind here is that the apprenticeship initiative requires that state agencies are the ones that have to comply with it. So any money they give out to projects, they got to ensure that those state agencies are complying with Illinois Works. It is the responsibility of the state agencies to follow each of the compliance steps, and the Office of Illinois Works proactively monitors each project to ensure that it complies. So we have a team of people at the Office of Illinois Works that specifically works on a daily basis watching the compliance of state agencies related to these goals and requirements for the execution of capital projects. So again, what's important here is this program is operational, and this program specifically designed to bring about demand in the construction industry. And that demand then is what we're taking advantage of when it comes to the other programs of Illinois Works. Any questions or comments before I go on to the next Illinois Works program, which is the pre-apprenticeship program?
We don't have anything in the chat, Norman.
Okay, great. So that's the first component of our model, is the demand component through Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative. The second component, which is the component where you fit in, and it's a vital component. If we create a lot of demand, if we invested $100 billion in capital projects in the state of Illinois, creating a huge demand, but if we don't have a skilled, capable talent pipeline, meaning individuals that want to work, individuals that want to join construction, individuals that are ready and able, then that demand, we're not doing anything. I mean, creating demand doesn't solve the problem. It creates actually more problems. That's the reason why we need a pre-apprenticeship program to be able to help fill the demand. So the next DCO Office of Illinois Works key program we will review is the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. The Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative, as I mentioned, creates the demand for jobs, but the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program creates the pipeline of diverse candidates to help respond to that demand. So that's the second piece in the puzzle here, is that through pre-apprenticeship programs, we're creating the pipeline of diverse candidates. Again, focus is underrepresented populations, women, people of color, and veterans. And we are then responding to that demand. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program creates a qualified talent pipeline to fill job opportunities with diverse candidates. It was launched in 2021 with the release of the NOFO. The NOFO obviously meaning the Notice of Funding Opportunity. And on January 1st, 2022, the first 23 programs of the Illinois Works Provider Network became operational. This year, the network grew to 30 providers delivering services throughout the state of Illinois. In fact, we have 5 different program models that are operational now. So we started in 2021 with 23 programs, and now this year, the network is growing to 30 providers, and you are the new members of that network that are going to be joining the members that were already operational last year and that were offered to renew their grants. This program delivers pre-apprenticeship skills training, and I want to emphasize that we are not a wraparound service provider. We are a skills training provider network, meaning all of our programs are required to deliver instruction, they're required to deliver training, they're required to provide nationally recognized certifications and certificates for their participants. And we work with a network of community-based organizations, including community colleges, faith-based organizations, business associations, among others. For our grants, we encourage proposals that provide training for underrepresented populations in the trades. Participants of the program attend tuition free, and this is mandated by state law, and receive a stipend also mandated by state law. And they also get a whole array of supportive services to help address systemic barriers which prevent them from entering the construction industry. So that's what the pre-apprenticeship program is, you are part of. So in summary, the pre-apprenticeship program provides skills training through a network of community-based organizations, including community colleges. In fact, this year, I think we have 5 community colleges that are part of our network. Preference is given to underrepresented populations that have historically encountered barriers to entry or advancement in the trades, including minorities, women, and veterans. The program is free to individuals that participate, and they're required to receive a stipend as part of attending the program. The first appropriation we received for this program is $25 million. With those $25 million, we funded our last year's 23 programs, and we are also funding this year's 30 programs. We are in the process of securing another $25 million appropriation that will provide funding for next year and the year after. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I did mention last time, but again, is that when you become a grantee of Illinois Works, you are required, obviously, to comply with all the requirements, particularly all the outcomes that are required of Illinois Works. but you could receive up to 2 renewals. So in other words, the grant contract that you receive could actually become a 3-year contract if you comply and you deliver services as did. You could be offered a renewal for a second year, and if in that second year you again comply and deliver the outcomes, you can be offered a third year, another renewal for a third year. So you could be in the system for 3 years. After the third year, all programs have to apply competitively again to be part of the network. But once you go in again, it could be up to 3 years of funding that you receive. So what's the status of this program? Again, as I mentioned, it's fully operational. In fact, the list of grantees for this program year, which started January 1st, will be soon announced by the governor. We're expecting, right now, we've gotten confirmation that on the 27th of January, the governor will be announcing all the 30 grantees for Illinois Works for this program year. So in total, for 2023, we have 28 grantees that are running 30 programs. We have a couple of grantees that run 2 different programs in 2 geographic locations in the state of Illinois. Total of 30 programs that we have across the state of Illinois. And the investment for this program year is almost $15 million. The average grant award is around $400,000, depending on how much each of the programs is proposing to do in terms of cohorts and also in terms of the number of individuals served. Our present network of providers has capacity to serve approximately 1,400 Illinois residents. We expect that to be probably close to 1,500 residents, once all the numbers are added. And what's more important is that we have presence in all the economic development regions in the state except one. So we only need presence in another economic development region, and then we would have full coverage throughout the state of Illinois. And we expect to get full coverage in the next program year. Of the original, so that you have an idea, you wonder how complicated it is to get renewed. It's important to know that of the original 23 providers that serve in the Illinois Works network in 2022, a total of 19 of them, or 83% of them, were offered grant renewals. And obviously, those 19 providers are now joined by the 11 new grantees, all of you, that are joining the network now, for a total of programs for this program year. Program year runs from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. So that's the network. As I said, fully operational, and we certainly have high hopes and expectations for you. You will definitely join some of the most experienced pre-apprenticeship providers in the state of Illinois that are part of our network already. You'll get to hear from them, you get to learn from them. They'll also love to learn from you. Any questions before I move on to IWRS? And this is a very important part of this conversation.
We have no questions in the chat, Norman.
Okay, great. So moving on, one of the comments when we asked what would you like to learn is how you implement these programs. Well, there are some very particular requirements related to Illinois Works. What requirements has to do with Illinois Works reporting system. So similar to the Apprenticeship Initiative Smartsheet platform, Illinois Works is committed to leveraging technology for continuous quality improvement. This includes the Illinois Works reporting system, or IWRS. You will hear this on a daily basis from us in the team, but also from your staff. IWRS is the platform that is required to be used by all Illinois Works grantees. And it's a very particular cost reporting platform. Part of your onboarding training will include 2 or 3 webinars specifically dealing with IWRS. In fact, next week there is an IWRS webinar. Make sure that you have enrolled in a webinar because you will be trained on how to use this technology and how it works. The Office of Illinois Works, in partnership with Southern Illinois University Center for Workforce Development, designed the Illinois Works Reporting System, or IWRS. The system was launched in February of 2022. And because this system is customized, it allows for grantees to track pre-apprenticeship program inquiries, participants, and grantee partnerships. So it allows you to track everything. It is not a typical reporting system for a grant where you only report certain things. This system is actually designed to track related to your program. So it's not only for purposes, but it's also for program management purposes. Due to this system also allows programs to track key information about participants' progress throughout their engagement with the program, including their application, their enrollment announcements, career and support services assessments, enrollment and training modules, attendance, and training completion and transition. So in other words, it tracks everything related to the life of a particular individual in your program. IWRS data is used for program compliance, reimbursement, and the longitudinal study. IWRS is the definitive source of data, of program data. It is critical that your organization prioritizes IWRS entry. Let me emphasize this, and I want to make sure that we all hear this from the very beginning so that you know, okay? We can only give you credit for any activities that you perform in your system if they are in IWRS. Anything outside of IWRS, if you have paper documentation, if you have any documentation that is not reported in IWRS, we cannot give you credit for that. We can only give you credit through IWRS. And this is the system that the grant managers will use on a monthly basis to check your compliance. They will look through all of your data, they will verify all of your data, and they will give you credit, and that credit counts towards your grant. This is a performance-based grant. So if you're not performing, meeting certain benchmarks, we cannot reimburse you for certain expenses. So as a result, it's very, very important that you really make this a top priority, having someone that is fully trained on how to do data entry. A lot of the training that we'll be doing in the next webinars will include training for those individuals just to make sure that they know how to use the system. They know what data to enter or not enter and how to do it, because this is very important for your program. So I want to emphasize, if it's not in the system, it just didn't happen for us. We can only use, we're only allowed to use IWRS data for anything related to the activities of your program and to be able to say how compliant you are with Illinois Works. Your onboarding schedule includes IWRS training. To register appropriate staff for onboarding sessions, a link is being provided for you in the chat. You will be able to see all the sessions offered along with registration links for each of those sessions in the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So we will provide the link again for you for the Partner Guide, where not only you will find the Grantee Manual, webinars, all of the resources related to Illinois Works. That's where you will also find a list of upcoming webinars and the links to register for those webinars. Now, how is, this is a comprehensive system, but how do we correlate this with the Grantee Manual and all the guidance that we use? A model that was created at the Office of Illinois Works called the Pre-Apprentice Life Cycle. And this is the model that we follow for all data entry in IWRS, but also for all the guidance that is provided in the Grantee Manual. So the Illinois Works program requirements are organized through a model called the Pre-Apprentice Life Cycle, which you are now seeing on your screen. The pre-apprentice life cycle outlines the steps that participants take as they move through the pre-apprenticeship program. It tracks participants' progress from the initial program outreach to the post-transition follow-up. So it tracks individuals from outreach all the way to follow-up. You can see it there on the model. You go outreach and recruitment, then there's application, then there's intake, then there's wraparound services, and on you go all the way to the end. Each stage demonstrates an integral step in preparing participants to enroll in a DOL registered apprenticeship program. And as I mentioned earlier, that is the ultimate goal of Illinois Works. You will receive credit primarily for transitioning individuals DOL registered apprenticeship programs. We do have secondary, what we call a secondary goal. If someone changes their mind and instead of going into construction, now they want to go into nursing school, or they want a job in healthcare, and you help them get those jobs, you will get credit for that. But the goal for us and the reimbursement for those is not at the same level. Moving on to the next slide, this is very important. I mentioned our particular focus is underrepresented populations. And underrepresented populations, as I mentioned, is women, people of color, and veterans. I wanted to show you here, based on the performance of our last program year, where we are in serving these populations. The column all the way to the right is the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship programs and how well they did in serving underrepresented populations. You will notice on the column on the left, the percentage of those different demographic groups in the United States, but also in the state of Illinois, and how those groups do in relation to the trades. Let's take, for instance, women. You will notice that women represent almost 51% of the Illinois population, but they represent only 5% of all construction apprentices. So there's a huge disparity there for women. Again, almost percent of the Illinois population, but only 5% of all construction trade apprentices. However, in the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship system, women represent 21%. So that's great. We did good. We increased the representation of women significantly through the Works pre-apprenticeship program. It's still not a parity, and we will continue to work. You have my commitment that you will see an emphasis on ensuring that women have better representation in construction. And again, it should be their choice. If they want to go in construction, if that's what they want to do, they should have an opportunity to do so. And we are fully committed in the Office of Illinois Works to ensure that that happens. So again, women represent 21% of those that we are serving in the Illinois Works provider network. African Americans represent almost 15% of the Illinois population. The latest numbers show that they are only 9% of all construction trade apprentices. Again, 15% in the population, only 9% in the construction trade apprentices. They represent 64% of our pre-apprentices in the Illinois Works network. So that means that we will have a significant impact both on women and African Americans as a result of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship system. Hispanics represent 18% of the population in the state of Illinois, and they represent 17% of the trades, the apprentices in the trades, almost at parity, a little bit lower than parity, but almost at parity. Right now, Hispanics represent almost 16% of the pre-apprenticeship program students. We have worked to ensure that there is better representation for Hispanics in work to ensure that they're also a parity in our network. So that for this program year should go up parity. American Indian or Native, they represent 0.6% of the Illinois population, and they represent 1% of all construction trade apprentices. So they are a parity or a little bit higher than parity. And they're also a parity when it comes to the pre-apprenticeship program, the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program at almost 0.8%. So Native Americans are definitely well served through our systems. Asians. Asians represent 2.9% of the Illinois population, only represent 0.7% of construction trade apprentices, huge disparity also for Asian Americans, and they only represent 0.7% of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program participants. So we are working, and this is one of the groups where we work hard to ensure that there was better representation in this program year. So we expect for this number to go up. And they still have to do some more work related to that, but this is definitely a group where more work needs to be done. The same thing goes for veterans. Veterans represent almost 6% of the Illinois population. They already represent 7% of the trade apprentices, so they are a little bit higher than parity. But when it comes to the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program at only 0.86 or 0.9%, we are definitely not at parity there. So that's another group that we are working to ensure has better representation in the Illinois Works system. As you can see, we are decisively working on serving underrepresented groups through the Illinois Works Network. And you can see it through those statistics that I just discussed right now. Given the current trends, Illinois Works is well positioned to impact equity in construction in the building trades in Illinois by decisively reaching out, recruiting, training, graduating, and transitioning key target underrepresented populations, which again are women, minorities, and veterans. So as you can see, we are definitely very excited to see that the first year of our program, we were on target with the majority of our underrepresented populations. There is work to be done with some of these groups, particularly Asians and veterans, but we feel very confident that we're going to get there. But for the majority of the underrepresented groups, we are definitely well on target to have an impact for them in the state of Illinois for years to come. The other tool that I wanted to introduce you to, it's a very important tool that you'll be able to find on the Illinois Works website, particularly the pre-apprenticeship program site. This is a tool that is very relevant to you for various reasons, okay? This is called the Illinois Works Heat Map. So I'll explain what this tool does. This is one of many tools Illinois Works is making available to its grantees to support their success. This technology provides an overview of statewide demographic data. So if you want to know how many underrepresented people of underrepresented backgrounds live in certain areas throughout the state of Illinois, the only thing you got to do is look at the circles, the red circles in this map. The larger the red circle, the more underrepresented populations live in that particular area. The smaller the red circle, the number of underrepresented groups in that area. You will notice, obviously, that the metro area, Chicago and the metropolitan, have the largest, circles, and that is because that's where the majority of our underrepresented populations are concentrated. However, you will notice also East St. Louis has a fairly large population. You will notice also Springfield has a fairly large circle. Urbana, the Urbana-Champaign area also have, large circles. Normal, Bloomington also have large circles. Obviously, Rockford, northern part of the state. So this is a very important tool because not only does it to see demographic data, it also allows you to see Illinois Works project data. So wherever capital projects are being executed, you can see them through this map. The red areas, the areas shaded in red, is where the majority of capital projects are taking place. The lighter ones is where less projects are taking place. So you can see, just by looking at the map, where capital projects are taking place. You could also see where the location of all Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship programs are. Once in the next couple of weeks, your own programs will be put on this map. That's one of the reasons why we requested a landing page, a flyer, and an info sheet for your program, because you will be included here on this map, and people will be able to come and see your own your own information. So all the all the stars, the yellow stars, represent Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. And when people click on it, they can see your program, your page, contact information, phone number, and they can call you because we get hundreds and hundreds of people visiting our website looking for information. There's another piece of information here that is important. Uh, Squares, blue squares on the map represent where DOL registered apprenticeship programs are located. So if you click on one of those blue squares, you're going to be able to see the DOL registered apprenticeship program, their information, what they offer. You can go to their website and get all information about how can I apply for that particular DOL registered apprenticeship program. So this heat map is it's a very useful tool for your purposes, but also the public uses it to be able to find out where our pre-apprenticeship programs are located. And this leads me to say something that is very important, okay? When people come to this website, they can click on a link and submit a form asking to be connected to a Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. So what we do on a daily basis is that we collect that information and we send out referrals to the various programs. So you will be receiving referrals from my office for particular individuals that have requested information about your particular program. I really ask you to please take those referrals seriously. We have had the unfortunate situation where we send out referrals and the programs don't follow up with the individuals that we refer to them, and then those individuals come back to us and complain. You know, I requested information 5 days ago, never heard from anybody. So there are two things that you need to do when you receive a referral from us. One, you need to let us know that you received the referral and that you're going to with these individuals within 24 to 48 hours. So that's very important. And the second thing, you actually need to communicate with those individuals within 24 to 48 hours. So you receive a referral from my office, you need to make sure that you let us know you got it and that you're going to be following through. And then you got to call those individuals and give them the information they need. Last year alone, I think we made close to 250 referrals to all of our programs, and I expect for those numbers to grow even more this year. Okay, this map is utilized by both pre-apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship initiative and our apprenticeship initiative to connect the public with local training programs plus contractors with apprentices. The map's coloring demonstrate the number of Illinois Works projects in each county, with the dark pink symbolizing higher concentrations and the darker teal representing a lower concentration of where capital projects are being executed. The red circles on the map represent the concentration of the underrepresented populations as outlined by the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act, which include women, individuals of color, and veterans. The blue squares represent apprenticeship programs, and the yellow stars represent Illinois Works funded pre-apprenticeship programs. And again, you can find the map on the Illinois Works website, the pre-apprenticeship program at the bottom of the page. We are also providing a link right now in the chat for the map in case you want to go and take a look at it. Let us move on to the third DCO Office of Illinois Works Ski Program, which is the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program. But before we do that, are there any questions in the chat, Christine?
Yes, we have a question about the heat map. So is there a guide on the map to what everything represents? So all of those kind of a legend like you just went through.
Yes, if you look at the top of the map, there is an arrow. You click on the arrow, that will give you a legend for what each of the symbols means on the map. So just do that and navigate it like that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your grant manager. They'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, so, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very innovative model in Illinois Works that has three components. The Illinois Works Initiative creates, the Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative creates the demand for jobs. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program creates a, uh, a talent pipeline of diverse candidates to help respond to the demand. However, the puzzle would not be complete without incentives. You know, it's very, very important to provide incentives because those incentives are directly given to contractors. So to complete the puzzle, we have created incentives to help ensure that Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program graduates are hired and retained by contractors and subcontractors. And I want you to hear this very closely. They can only get those incentives if they hire pre-apprenticeship program graduates, meaning if they hire your program graduates. If they don't hire your program graduates and retain them, they cannot get those incentives, okay? So that's the reason why, as I mentioned, this is so innovative because these three components, these three programs work with each other to ensure that we bring about the change that I mentioned earlier. So the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program incentivizes contractors to hire and retain a diverse pool of candidates. It allows contractors and subcontractors to earn bid credits by employing apprentices who have completed the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. But here's the other thing. They can only earn bid credits if they hire people that completed your program. So people need to complete your program. There are only a couple of exceptions that we make to that rule, and those are exceptions on appeal. We will discuss those once we get to the appeal section of the grantee manual, but there's a lot that we do when it comes to exceptions to that rule. Um, the bid credits. So what are bid credits? So bid credits are certain dollar amounts. These are they actually get an account in the Illinois Works Bid Credit Bank, and they can earn bid credits based on how much they pay uh, the graduate that they hired. In different trades, get different rates of pay. But then the bid credits can be used towards future bids for public works projects contracted by the state of Illinois or an agency of the state. What does that mean? That means that if contractor and I'm bidding on a project for $1 million and I actually have $50,000 worth of bid credits because I hired one of your program graduates and I had them for 1 year or 2 years, and as a result, I earned $50,000 worth of bid credits. If I attach those bid credits to a bid when I submit a bid for a project with the state, instead of my bid being $1 million, if I attach $50,000 worth of bid credits, my bid is actually $950,000. And that may allow me to win that bid just by having bid credits. That's one of the reasons why these bid credits are very important, particularly for medium and smaller size contractors. With their bids can get very competitive to be able to win more business for them, and also obviously to be able to support their business. So in summary, bid credits, the bid credit system allows for contractors and subcontractors to earn bid credits for years towards future bids for projects that are funded by the state of Illinois or any state of or any agency of the state. Bid credits can be earned for employing apprentices who have completed the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program um, and contracted by state agencies. DCO determines the bid credit earning rate by rule based on labor hours worked on state contracted public works projects by apprentices who completed the pre-apprenticeship program. So again, it depends on, you know, the number of hours they work. They have to submit to be able to earn the bid credits. But then if they earn the bid credits are deposited in their bid credit account. The rate is published. It may include maximum bid credits allowed per contractor, per subcontractor, per apprentice, per bid, or per year. The other thing that we included as part of the bid credit program is that if they retain a particular graduate of Illinois Works, let's say for a year, they get a certain bid credit bonus. 2 years, they get a higher level of bonus. 3 years, a higher level bonus. 4 years, a higher level bonus. The whole objective is to ensure that individuals are retained so that they finish their DOL registered apprenticeship programs and become journeymen. The Illinois Works Bid Credit Bank it's being established right now by DCO, and DCO is presently the mechanism for tracking the bid credits. So what's the current status of this program, the bid credit program? The bid credit program is currently in the design stages. In fact, it will be ready for implementation early in 2023. The program's framework and rules are being finalized. We're in the process of finalizing that. However, one of the key components of the bid credit program is already operational, and that is the applicant tracking system, which is a technological tool that is going to be used for that program. So I'll talk now about the applicant tracking system because this one is very important for your programs. A tracking system has been deployed, and it was actually just implemented a month ago or so. We finished training recently the existing grantees on how to use the applicant tracking system. So this is a new database that tracks graduates and allows companies to review their resumes for hire. The new system is called the Illinois Works Applicant Tracking System, or ATS. It connects all 3 Illinois Works programs. So what it does is that it traces the professional qualification and trajectory of Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program graduates. When you graduate from your when they graduate from your program, you're required to enroll them in the ATS system and upload the latest resume that you have for that individual. When contractors are in need of apprentices, they will come to the applicant tracking system and request a list of apprentices they can hire in a particular location. So what we will do then is match graduates to that request and then submit the resumes to the employers that request their resumes. All grantees have the opportunity to add their graduates to a candidate pool for contractors or employers seeking to hire or sponsor apprentices. Illinois Works will provide training on the applicant tracking system in the next couple of months. To you, we already trained the existing grantees, but you will get trained in the next couple of months, particularly once you start having graduates. To see the professional development schedule and register for training related to the ATS, take a look at the Illinois Works Partner Guide. And again, we already provided the link in the chat. The link to the Partner Guide will help you find the link where you can register for course related to the ATS. So the ATS is a very important part of the system. But the question is, how does it integrate all of the Illinois Works programs? And that's where the ATS can really make a difference. So the Illinois Works Applicant Tracking System connects all 3 Illinois Works programs, offering Illinois Works grantees the opportunity to add their candidates to a candidate pool for contractors or employers seeking to hire or sponsor apprentices. That's where the talent pipeline and the apprenticeship demand come together. This system is also a great way for contractors that need to comply, with the 10% goal that I mentioned earlier, and they need to find apprentices to comply. It connects them with our graduates through the applicant tracking system. But this system also, it's a great way for contractors to connect with Illinois Works apprentices if they're interested in earning bid through the Illinois Works bid credit system. So on the one hand, you have contractors that have to comply with the requirement to the apprenticeship initiative. They'll come to the applicant tracking system looking for candidates to hire or sponsor. The same thing goes for contractors wanting to earn bid credits and wanting to hire our graduates so that they can earn bid credits. They'll come to the applicant tracking system asking for graduates that they can then interview and hire. So what's very important here is that there are certain things that need to happen in order for the connection of these 3 programs to take place. So on the one hand, contractors needing to comply with the 10% apprenticeship goal will come to the applicant tracking system looking for qualified candidates to hire and sponsor into DOL registered apprenticeship programs. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grantees will enter the profile of their graduates and upload an updated resume, so they are responsible for keeping them current. Once you enter your graduates in the ATS, it is very important that you keep that information current. Their resumes need to be current, their contact information needs to be current, phone number, email address, all of that needs to be current, because otherwise employers are going to try to call them and be able to get a hold of them. Contractors that join the bid credit program will come to the applicant tracking system to look for qualified candidates to hire and sponsor into DOL registered apprenticeship programs so that they can earn bid credits. So you can see here that these three programs through the applicant tracking system start to work together. Contractors wanting candidates to hire, comply with the 10% goal. Illinois Works graduates, in this case, you as the grantee, entering their information in the system so that it's fresh, it's current, so that contractors can then take advantage of those resumes and call those individuals they're interested in. And then contractors wanting to earn bid credits can come to this same system to find individuals that they can sponsor. Any questions before we move on to the next section? In fact, the next section is going to be delivered by Dr. Yolanda from NIU. She will be delivering the next section related to program culture. But before we do that, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Before we go on break, if you could please let me know, Christine, if we have any questions in the chat.
We do not have any questions in the chat right now.
Okay, great. So it is 10:40 right now. We're right on time. We're going to take a 10-minute break. If you could please make sure that you're back by 10:50. And when you come back, we're going to go on to module 5 of this webinar. And Dr. Yolanda Clark will be our facilitator delivering that section. And then after her, Christine will deliver the rest of the content. So thanks again for joining. We appreciate you being here with us today, and we will see you in 10 minutes.
Good morning again. Hopefully everyone is okay after the break. Um, but I do want to say that before I start, I'm supposed to administer a quiz about the material that we just covered. Is everyone ready for the quiz? No responses?
We got some yeses in
Okay.
the chat. I think you scared them with the word quiz, Yolanda.
Yes, I was just trying to make sure I had everybody's attention before I started.
That just
Okay.
makes everyone
That was
panic when we say the word
yeah,
quiz, but
that was just a joke. Uh, but anyway, I'm going to discuss about the Illinois Works program culture. And in this discussion, I'll just list the 6 Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program core values, talk about incorporating recommended tools to measure the utilization of the core values, articulate the impact of an equity focus on Illinois Works program goals, and infuse diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity into the program's culture, each of the program's elements, and each phase of the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. Okay, do you have any questions regarding the content in this particular section that I'll try to cover this morning? Okay, if no questions, we will proceed to section 2, which is the program culture and the 2023 Grantee Manual. Okay, activity time. Now, using the Mentimeter, answer the following question. How does your organization define program culture? I think Christine just put the code for the Mentimeter in the chat. The norms of the staff. Good job. Anyone else? Inclusiveness. Very important. Yes. Inclusion, diversity, environment. Yes, all of these are correct. Great answers. Equal, behavioral expectations, family, positivity. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much for your responses. It's very important for this engagement when we go through these particular sessions. Okay, thank you. Now, a program's culture refers to a program's environment. For our purposes, it is the pattern of beliefs, values, and rituals, relationships, and practices shared by Illinois Works, the program grantees, and pre-apprenticeship participants. The program culture is key to effective service delivery and participant outcomes. There are 4 components to the Illinois Works program culture. The first is honoring the program core values. We have tools to measure those cultural elements, understanding the impact of Illinois Works equity focus, and incorporating diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. Each of these should be incorporated throughout the program from the initial contact with the participant, emphasized during the training, and reinforced while transitioning participants into an apprenticeship program and employment. Now, let us review each of these in more detail. Okay, activity time again, which I love. Using the Mentimeter, answer the following question. What elements or characteristics do you think creates a positive and impactful pre-apprenticeship program culture? caring, mutual respect, yes, mentoring, resources, positive reinforcement, minority mentors, recognizing culture, learning together, okay? Diverse staff, communication, open-mindedness. Wow, these are great responses. Okay. Faith and hope. Wow. Great job. Okay, thank you for those responses. Okay, let us start with the first one, which is honoring the program core values. Illinois Works identified 6 program core values that are central to creating a positive and impactful program culture. Program core values are the foundational ethics and principles grantees are expected to incorporate throughout each phase of the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. You hear us talk about this a lot, the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. They should serve as a guiding light for behavior and decision-making within the program. Each of these core values are intended to inspire and constrain actions to ensure the program maintains the highest ethics and principles and remains focused on bringing equity and inclusion to construction and the trades. Okay, overcome barriers. Now, the foundation of the Illinois Works program is ensuring equitable access and opportunities to historically underrepresented populations. Illinois Works grantees should focus on building an environment that eliminates or reduces the impact of structural barriers facing participants and celebrates cultural and ethnic differences. Now, we want you all to try to empower resilience for self-sufficiency. The program design and implementation should focus on how participants will complete the program successfully, but also on teaching participants long-term skills that would allow them to build resilience, become self-sufficient, and secure a long-term career. Like Norman said in the last session, we're not just wanting to give the participants jobs when they complete, but we want to set them up for their careers. Now, we want to impact through outcomes. People and programs grow when goals are set and outcomes are measured. Illinois Works programs are expected to track program and participant metrics and make adjustments to cultivate further success or strengthen weak points. Now, while outcomes are fueled by metrics, it's also important to remember that outcomes also measure your program's impact and the difference you are making in the lives of your participants. It is a measure of your organization and program mission. It's not simply a number. Okay, innovate persistently. Ongoing progress and adaptation allow for long-term success. This value focuses on helping the program and participants develop a drive to continue acquiring and strengthening skills. We want them to be able to just keep innovating persistently even after they leave these programs. Build a community of collaboration. Successful learning is rooted in a safe, welcoming, and collaborative environment. Illinois Works programs should develop an environment that promotes respect for all participants and staff, practices open and empathic listening, and attends to the lived experiences of our participants. We always need to keep in mind that we all come from different places. We all have different lived experiences. And through that, we can build a community of collaboration. Now, we need to maximize differences. Diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity is more than meeting certain metrics. It is ensuring that each participant feels they belong in the classroom, that their voice is heard, and that their contributions are valued. Each of the program core values is rooted in the ultimate goal of your pre-apprenticeship program. Again, diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity in the construction and building trades. If you think about this as much as I do, you'll probably dream about diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity, because it's very important in the context of workforce development in this era. We will talk more about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging shortly. Okay? Now that we've covered honoring the program core values, Let us move to the second component, tools to measure cultural elements. Okay, the grantee manual offers measurement tools to investigate evidence-based practices and facilitate a working session. The next component of the program's culture are the tools to measure core values. Having core values is great, is awesome. However, can you be assured that your program staff and instructors are performing in a way that conforms to those values? How do you really know which components of your program are hitting the mark and which require improvement? In the words of W. Clement Stone, don't expect what you don't inspect. You must proactively inspect your program's performance. You must measure and measure and measure again. Measuring cultural elements can be difficult, but it's possible. The Grantee manual provides in Table 1 the cultural strategies measurement matrix, which makes recommendations for measuring core values. And again, we're going to use the Mentimeter. Now, which Illinois Works core values is currently a part of your program's culture, and how do you demonstrate them? Diversity, targeting underrepresented groups. Are there any more? Diversity by seeking a diverse workforce. Yes. Unity. Are there any more? These are great. Ensuring everyone feels heard. Measuring. Unity again, okay. Encouragement. Diversity. We have a diversity team dedicated to making sure we are providing the opportunities we should be. Okay. Belonging. We are accepting all who need improvement and advancement in new skill sets. Unity. Everyone is family. Okay. Collaboration with participants and staff. Equality. Having all same opportunities. Belonging. We make sure everyone feels welcome. Great, great, great. Diversity. Okay. Great job. Okay, we're going to talk about overcoming barriers and tools for measuring that. Okay, we have the wraparound service assessment. What we do with that, we review wraparound service data to identify additional partners that provide services the grantee organizations do not have when they do not have the capacity to offer those services. Now, let me emphasize that participants can opt in and out of these wraparound services at any point throughout the participation in the program. Okay, we also have participant satisfaction surveys. Now, using the chat, identify what information might be available to gather from a participant satisfaction survey that may help inform your pre-apprenticeship program. Let me repeat that. What information could you gather from a participant satisfaction survey that might help inform your pre-apprenticeship program? Using the chat. Feedback. Christine, do you see any more?
I don't have any more right now in the chat. I just did throw that question in there in case anyone wanted to just reread it.
Barriers. Okay, I said someone said childcare. Okay. Now, what these surveys, what they can do is help grantees identify what barriers their participants are facing, their perspective on how the program was able to address those barriers, as well as information on how to restructure their programs moving forward, which is very important because the participants are the people that know what's going on with them. So it's best to get this information from them, and we can use this information, like I'm saying, to make the program better, to improve the program, make sure that we're offering the services that they really need. Because if we have all these services and we're not making the right assessments to make sure they're getting what they need, the program might not work as well as it should work. The new satisfaction survey form will come out for the 2023 it'll come out this year, and it'll provide to our participants who are successfully complete the program. Okay, the next core value is to empower for resilience and self-sufficiency. Now, we also can use the wraparound service assessment for this as well. This assessment can act as a foundation for long-term planning for participants who may have needs beyond the program. Now, grantees, while they're not responsible for wraparound services beyond the program, grantees may seek to help students address some issues through alternate programs or develop plans that extend beyond graduation. Okay, innovating persistently is the next core value. Okay, we can use the program improvement plan. Using the chat, identify how a program improvement plan might inform your ability to innovate persistently. We have a lot of activities in this section. I love activities, and I hope you all love them as well. Is there anything in the chat?
Yep, we just got one response there. Do you see it, Yolanda?
No, it disappeared on me, so
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, so Dr. Priscilla Palmer said, we will know what we need to do to improve our program.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Improvement plan gives a roadmap. Okay. Having target is always helpful. Okay, these tools can help you review your overall program data as well as participant specific data. These data can be used to evaluate and improve key areas that might require additional creativity and innovation to effectively respond. Okay, the next is impact through outcomes. Okay, we have the career assessment. Setting goals and creating plans to achieve them increases the likelihood of success for participants. Okay, these career plans, in combination with participant progress reports, can help participants track movement toward their goals. We can also use program improvement plans to impact through outcomes as well. In addition to being a tool utilized to help programs improve performance, these can also demonstrate the impact the grantee made in the previous year. This information can be used for their grantee manual reports or newsletters. We can also use monthly compliance reports. These can be used in preparation for your monthly program review with the Illinois Works Grant Manager to verify progress. Okay, the next core value is to build a community of collaboration. Collaboration is always so important. Okay, what tools can we use? We can use the non-discrimination, harassment, and bullying complaint forms and log. A high number of complaints might be a warning sign. Ensuring participants feel safe and that their concerns will be taken seriously is a key component in developing a collaborative environment. We want to make sure the participants are heard and that they feel comfortable enough to report these complaints if they do occur. Participant satisfaction survey. They provide a space for participants to rate the program on a critical components such as offering support for target populations, empathetic listening, and ensuring instructors and program staff are trained in key areas like trauma-informed and gender-informed services. Now, the Kirkpatrick Level 1 evaluation can help measure satisfaction. For more information regarding this evaluation, you can look into the 2023 Grantee Manual. Okay, the last core value is to maximize differences. For that, we can use a standardized interview. The wealth of information that can be gathered from these one-on-one interviews can be extremely helpful in program planning and helping connect students to one another, alumni, and apprenticeships. The exit interview is similar to the standardized interview. These one-on-one, they're confidential meetings, and they can offer vital information about if or how well the program is maximizing differences and creating a culture of inclusion and belonging. These interviews are only for those participants who leave the program prior to graduation. Okay, negative exit interviews can act as a foundation for program improvement plans. The 2023 Grantee Manual provides this in Exhibit 1, which is entitled Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Exit Interview. Okay, again, another activity. Using the Mentimeter, answer the following question. What tools do you plan to use to measure how well the core values are incorporated into your pre-apprenticeship program? Google Forms, okay. Student surveys, evaluation outcomes reach, okay. One-on-one conversations. Exit interviews, post assessments, one-on-one, okay, participant check surveys. Several that were just mentioned, okay, surveys and interviews. Great responses, thank you so much. Someone said, is that continual conversations with students? Okay, it's always a great idea. And constant communication with the students, okay? Thank you all for those responses. Okay, the Illinois Works Equity Focus. The third program culture core element is understanding the impact of Illinois Works Equity Focus. And Illinois Works Equity Focus is the next component of the program's culture. It requires grantees to demonstrate their understanding of how race, ethnicity, and gender impact individual access to and experience within a construction and building trade pre-apprenticeship program. Having a clear understanding of the challenges relevant to equity allows your program to best respond. Now, data shows that the construction industry, as well as the trades, have not been accessible for many diverse groups, resulting in fewer than 10% of apprenticeships being extended to women and minority groups in many of the higher paid trades. Okay, again, using the Mentimeter. What might be some factors that impact equity in construction and the building trades? race, age, gender, lack of diverse mentors, past hiring practices. Someone said in the chat, age, racial biases. Okay. Veteran status, good one. Okay. Sexism, racism, ageism, location, education, implicit bias. These are all great. Are there any more? Okay. Clear understanding. Okay. Now I'm just going to just list some of these, or just talk, about some of these that you just mentioned. Some of the one factors that impact equity in construction and trades. Um, these are just some, and they're not limited to these, but race and ethnicity biases, like someone said, gender biases, negative perceptions regarding women working in the construction or building trades, knowledge regarding occupational opportunities within construction and the building trades, equal access to opportunities for training, a hostile or unwelcoming workplace environment and culture. Now here's what we know. Many of you are in this work because you understand the relevant issues and the importance of diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity with respect to underrepresented groups in the construction and building trades. However, ensuring underrepresented groups can successfully enter occupations in construction or trades is not just about benevolence or quote unquote doing the right thing. It's about smart business. As you engage businesses and potential partners to support your program, support services, wraparound services, and transition services, it may be necessary for you to make the business case, not just the ethics case. Or according to research by McKinsey and Company, gender and ethnic cultural diversity continues to demonstrate a statistically significant correlation with financial performance. Diverse companies experience improved customer orientation, employee satisfaction, and decision making. Companies performing at the highest levels of success have all developed inclusion and diversity strategies for which they were strongly committed. Now, closing the gender gap could add up to 28 trillion, not million, not billion, but trillion dollars to the annual GDP by 2025. Moreover, companies in the top quartile for ethnic and racial diversity at the management levels were 35% more likely to experience financial returns above their industry's average. Also, construction is experiencing a significant exodus of skilled labor due to retiring of the baby boomers and out migration from Illinois. Underrepresented populations can effectively fill those gaps. Including underrepresented groups allows companies to have access to the totality of the available intellectual capital in Illinois. Companies that take advantage of the intellectual capital available to them will also experience the benefits. Improving opportunities for underrepresented groups is a win-win strategy for everybody. The demand for construction workers creates a window of opportunity to increase underrepresented groups' access to jobs in the construction industry and the building trades. Illinois Works' 3 key programs maximize this opportunity by creating the demand for jobs, creating a pipeline of diverse candidates to help respond to the demand, and providing incentives to help ensure program graduates are hired and retained by contractors and subcontractors. Now, you serve a critical role in helping fulfill this mission by implementing programs and services that remove barriers, create a welcoming environment, and ensure underrepresented groups can successfully enter occupations within construction and the building trades. Okay, we're going to talk now about diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity, which is the last component of the program's culture. Successful implementation of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program integrates, again, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity, with the goal of fostering an environment that allows individuals to feel safe and to participate fully and to develop professionally and reach their fullest potential. DIBE, in conjunction with all 6 of the Illinois Works core values, should be woven into all program requirements. Okay, now let's start first with diversity. A successful pre-apprenticeship program helps create a qualified talent pipeline to fill job opportunities in construction and the building trades with diverse candidates from underrepresented groups. Diversity is defined as the ways in which people differ, encompassing specific characteristics that may include, but not be limited to, race, ethnicity, gender, age, national origin, religion, disability, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, education, marital status, language, and physical appearance. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program specifically targets the following diverse groups: women, people of color, and veterans. Diversity is a critical component, but incomplete. Access is a critical first step. An effort to increase diversity helps ensure that individuals from underrepresented groups are, quote unquote, in the room. Once they are in the room, the goal is to help ensure they do not leave the room. This requires a focus on inclusion. Inclusion is an environment in which individuals are treated fairly, respected, have equal access to resources and opportunities. A focus on inclusion ensures participants can fully participate and contribute. While state and federal laws, as well as Illinois Works, require diversity, inclusion is a choice and must be proactively pursued. If they choose to, quote unquote, stay in the room, we must have an environment that is conducive for success. This also requires for a focus on belonging. Now, belonging is when participants are able to bring their authentic selves into the pre-apprenticeship training rooms and work sites. I want to repeat that because that's very, very important. We need to allow people to bring their authentic selves into the pre-apprenticeship training rooms and work sites. Belonging ensures participants feel valued, allows them to develop positive connections, enhances their sense of well-being and their self-esteem, and encourages them to maximize their fullest potential. The need to belong is fundamental for the human experience. Belonging in this context may be new. Hopefully you all are familiar with belonging, because I know for so long people just talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But for the Illinois Works program, we felt it was important to include this piece about belonging because it impacts an individual's emotions, their cognition, their sense of their self-efficacy, self-esteem, and ultimate performance. Now, when a person's perception of themselves is different from how they're being treated or even the nonverbal message they receive from the environment, this can kind of create a negative experience for them. Belonging mitigates the conflict between who an individual knows themselves to be and how their immediate environment can make them feel. And if it's not jiving together, participants may feel uncomfortable and may not feel that they belong and might not be able to complete these programs. Grantees need to take positive actions that make participants feel they belong in the program. When participants feel they belong, their voices are being heard and their contributions are valued and differences are acknowledged and affirmed. If participants start to feel that they're not represented in the learning process, their willingness to engage in educational risk-taking is minimized at best, and at worst, they just stop altogether and don't complete the programs. Establishing an environment where participants incorporate their own knowledge and experience has been shown to foster critical thought, educational risk-taking, and success. Equity. Equity is the last part of this, and which is one of the most important parts. The word equity appears twice when addressing program culture. Now, we initially addressed this importance of having an equity focus. Having an equity focus requires program staff to understand how race, ethnicity, and gender impact their experience within the construction and building trades. Having an understanding is only half the battle, though. We need to put that understanding into some type of action. Equity, along with diversity, belonging, and inclusion, create an environment where participants feel safe and they can be fully engaged and can develop professionally. It is important to note diversity alone does not guarantee equity. Let me repeat that. Diversity alone does not guarantee equity. The goal of diversity is to ensure that the underrepresented groups are in the room. Inclusion and belonging helps keep them in the room and cultivate an environment for success. Whereas equality advocates for everyone receiving the same thing, equity recognizes that each person has different needs, presents with different circumstances, and receives resources and opportunities based on those needs. And that goes back to us saying that people come to these programs with different lived experiences. They come to these programs from different places. So it's important that we understand this to be able to promote these equitable programs. Now, what equity does, equity levels the playing field. Now, to maximize the impact and the effectiveness of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity efforts, and to help ensure compliance with Illinois Works mandates, Illinois Works will provide technical assistance and training related to the following topics. Number one, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. Understanding barriers to employment in the construction and building trades. Now, more information related to upcoming training can be found on the Illinois Works Partner Guide website and the published 2023 Professional Development Grantee schedule. Successful programs require, again, diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity. Each of these should be infused throughout the entire pre-apprenticeship life cycle. Now, before we move to the next section, are there any questions regarding this section about program culture?
I don't see any in the chat, Yolanda.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Yolanda. So I'm going to pick up our next two sections, and then we are going to finish out our presentation today with just a short feedback session. But before we kind of get going, the next couple of sessions are really focused on kind of, as you can see, legal implications, and then we're going to get into some partnership definitions and information. So I just want to make sure that everyone is doing okay, that we're engaged. I know these are longer webinars than a lot of us are used to being on. So if you guys can all work with me here and try something out. So if you can all unmute your lines and turn on your video cameras so I can see all of you. I want to just try something with you guys just to get us kind of the blood moving, get us engaged. So we are about to go into module number 6. So we're gonna play a little game. Oh, hi, Gab Steve. Hi. We got a whole room of people there. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Alejandro, Adam. So let's go ahead. So you guys all know the song If You're Happy and You Know It. So let's go forward with that. So if you're ready for this module, clap your hands. All right, I heard some claps. Who else is still muted here? We have Ashley muted, Crystal's muted, Barbara. Come on, join in, guys. If you're ready for this module, tap your head. I got Alejandro, Adam. Thank you so much, guys. All right, so we are back engaged. Let's talk about some legal implications for the pre-apprentice life cycle. You guys can go back off of your camera and mute yourself if you would like. So as Yolanda just went through, our program does use the diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity model. So this is a model that was designed specifically for Illinois Works. But we also have to keep in mind kind of the legal implications of discrimination, harassment, all of these things that we really want to ensure are not part of our programs, but we know can be part of our participants' lives, especially as they're going into spaces that are not traditionally welcoming to them. So in this section, we are going to be talking about some kind of well-known kind of federal legal policies. So by the end of this section, you'll be able to avoid potential legal consequences by implementing a comprehensive anti-discrimination, harassment, and bullying policy, as well as developing a reporting process. And then you'll also be able to identify each phase of the pre-apprenticeship life cycle that Norman introduced a little bit earlier. So let's kick off with our legal implications. So as Yolanda just went through, to have this space where we have inclusivity, where people feel like they belong, we have to have cultures that are free of discrimination, they're free of harassment, bullying, any sort of emotional or physical harm. And so by being able to do that, we first have to understand what those actions look like. So I want to define these three terms for you. And then in just a second, we are all going to play a little game together to kind of identify some examples of what this type of behavior might look like. So our first definition is discrimination. So discrimination is bias or prejudice resulting in denial of opportunity or unfair treatment when hiring, creating or applying policies, training, promoting, firing or laying off employees, or in any other terms and conditions of employment or program participation. So, obviously for our programs, we're really focused on that program participation. How are we ensuring that there's no discrimination in our acceptance policies and how people are treated in our programs? But we also want to think about how that might play out in a hiring scenario for some of our participants when they do transition out of the program. So being able to kind of identify those actions can really help not only your teams, but also your participants to start to understand what are the actions that they're seeing and what are some kind of legal protections that they have. So the second definition is harassment. So harassment can be a wide range of unwelcome and offensive behaviors. Oftentimes they're going to be repetitive behaviors. So someone doing the same thing over and over and over again, making the same jokes, making the same comments, but they don't always have to be repetitive. So harassment can be an acute instance where someone interacts with another person, and that's a really unwelcome, offensive behavior to them. The final definition is bullying. So this is a persistent pattern of mistreatment from others in the workplace or in the training space that causes either physical or emotional harm. So this can include verbal or nonverbal, psychological abuse, humiliation, even physical abuse. So again, these are all items that we don't want in our training programs. None of you want in your training programs, but we also need to be very aware of, when we are breaking into industries that are traditionally not open to underrepresented populations like those that we serve, that our participants can face these things. And so we need to be really clear about what legal implications there are and how this might impact our participants. So just so we are all clear, workplace or training space harassment and discrimination is illegal, and individuals' rights are protected by local, state, and federal legislation. So as we just kind of went through, Yolanda walked us through our core values. So in addition to being against state and federal laws, these are also really not in line with the Illinois Works core values. So whenever there's a space where there's discrimination, harassment, bullying, you start to see individuals get disempowered. So you're not going to have empowerment for resilience and self-sufficiency. it's going to destroy that community of collaboration because nobody wants to be bullied or harassed, but also it's very uncomfortable to be in a space where that's existing. So that community of collaboration is going to get destroyed if these things are allowed to kind of thrive in that training space. And then maximizing differences. We really are about inclusion and belonging. And as soon as someone's differences are pointed out and mocked and treated as if they're not valuable or that person's not being heard, you're going to see those differences kind of, those individuals kind of get quieter. They'll probably disengage. They might leave the program. And then you're, in as well as destroying that community, you're also starting to kind of not really maximize those differences, not have the power and the creativity that's brought with diversity. So let's jump into, like I said, we are going to do a couple of case scenarios. So we're going to jump back over to Mentimeter. I enjoy games, so we are going to play a game that on Mentimeter is called Vroom. So all of you have one of these little avatars. It was, automatically generated for you. So I apologize if you don't like your avatar, but we have, a penguin, a tiger, a plane, a crown. All of you have one of these assigned. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a scenario, and you're going to decide if that scenario represents discrimination, harassment, or bullying. So this is a way we're really going to understand what do these actions look like in real life. So we'll get ready for our first scenario. And you got to answer quick. This is a game. So an instructor yells at a participant in front of the class, calling him lazy and telling him that he will never achieve anything. Is this bullying, harassment, or discrimination? I'm excited to see who's in the lead. All right, let's see. 2, 1, time's up. Bullying. Awesome. Yes. So that is an example of bullying. This is an individual who's been targeted. This is going to cause emotional harm. So yes, for those 12 who responded bullying, you are now in the lead. You guys, those other 7, you can still make it up, so don't worry. So the next scenario is about childcare issues. So childcare issues prevented a participant from arriving on time. The case manager tells her that he can help if she would go on a date with him. Is this harassment, bullying, or discrimination? 3, 2, 1. All right. Yes, it is harassment. So this is a form of sexual harassment. So kind of quid pro quo there, right? It, will kind of help you out if you go on a date with me. So that is a form of harassment. And then we'll move on to our third case scenario. And so this one is an applicant is redirected from the program because it is believed that any physical limitation would be a hardship on the program and the applicant. Is this bullying, harassment, discrimination? All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, there we go. Everyone got that one right. So yes, this is a form of discrimination. This individual has a physical limitation and they are being told they cannot be part of this program because of that physical limitation. So yes, good job, everyone. Thank you for playing this game with me. We'll see who got the lead. All right, Maury, congratulations. Good job. Well, thank you guys all for participating in that with me. I always think those games kind of just help to reinforce those actions, and it's always good to kind of have an action in mind when we're thinking through these definitions to really make them kind of a real world definition instead of just definitions that we see on a page. So next, we're going to jump into some of these state and federal laws that do kind of guard against these types of discrimination, against harassment. So all of these are going to be listed in section 2 of the grantee manual. These did not change from last year. So if you have a copy of the 2022 manual, these are all in there. I'm just going to briefly walk through these for all of you. So the first one is Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972. So this act states that no person in the United States based on sex should be excluded from participating in, being denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The next one is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So this prohibits discrimination in employment based on race, color, sex, religion, or national origin. Then the Equal Pay Act of 1963, we may know it as the EPA. This is the United States labor law amending the Fair Labor Standards Act and abolishes wage disparity based on sex. Now, this next one is a state law. So the first three were federal laws. This next one is a state law. So this is the Illinois Human Rights Act. So this law prohibits discrimination with respect to a wide variety of demographics. So I'm just going to read a couple of them, but these are all listed in the grantee manual, last year's, as well as the updated version that will come out today or early tomorrow. So it prohibits discrimination against age, ancestry, arrest record, conviction record, gender identity, marital status, pregnancy, race, religion, sexual harassment, sexual orientation, or unfavorable military discharge. So again, those are just a couple of the items. The full list is in the grantee manual. So I encourage you to kind of look over that list. And then the next one, again, is a federal law. So the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. And this prohibits discrimination against people who are physically or mentally challenged, who are able to perform the essential functions of the job, and requires employers to offer reasonable accommodations to enable those workers to do their job. So in the United States, there is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, who is responsible for enforcing the federal laws that I've stated here. And then here in Illinois, we have an Illinois Human Rights Commission. We have the Illinois Human Rights Commission office here in Chicago. I believe there's also an arm down in Springfield. So they are the ones who are responsible for ensuring that discrimination based on those demographic aspects that I read earlier is not occurring, or that law is enforced. So just so you know kind of where to go if you want more information on those. Now, if any of these have been violated, so if your program's being accused of a violation, or if a participant or program staff member suspects a violation, you want to make sure that you are the first to know, not the last to know. So this also kind of goes into creating that culture of collaboration, a culture that is built on trust and inclusion and belonging. Is you want your participants to feel like if something is happening, they can come to you. And this isn't something that you're hearing from, someone outside, you're hearing from our office. And so that all goes into kind of really ensuring that your participants feel connected and feel like they can trust that you would follow up on something like this. So I want to talk about a couple of tools that you're going to find in the grantee manual that are around this discrimination, harassment, and bullying. So the first one is called Exhibit 1. So this is a sample discrimination, harassment, and bullying policy. So you can see that here on the screen. Now, anytime in the grantee manual that you see something called an exhibit, that means that is a document we have created for your use that cannot be augmented. So it is something that we ask, you are welcome to use that policy, but we ask that you do not augment it. And the reason for this one is because this is something we have vetted with, our legal team. It's something that we have approval kind of from DCEO. So we want to make sure that if you're going to utilize it, that stays kind of the policy that had been approved. Again, you're going to find that in the grantee manual as exhibit number 1. Exhibit number 2 is the sample discrimination, harassment, bullying complaint form. So this form is going to be used by your participants to submit that they feel there's been a violation. And so that's something that's going to act as kind of the foundation for an investigation into that complaint. And for that investigation, you can use exhibit number 3, which is a sample policy and checklist for addressing discrimination, harassment, and bullying complaints. So you can see that checklist here. It's the rightmost document. And you can see there are kind of step-by-step directions on, did you talk with the complainant? Did you talk with the person that has kind of this alleged violation? When was that completed? What were the results of that? But it's a way for your team to kind of track if there was a violation reported, that you have documentation to back up that an investigation was done. Now, these documents, if you have a policy internally, you have a process internally, you can continue to use that process. We provide these in the event that you don't have existing documents or an existing process. So feel free to use these if you don't currently have one of these policies or one of these checklists to utilize. So are there any questions before I move on to our final section? I don't want to get into the life cycle quite yet. If there are any questions about the discrimination, harassment, and bullying. I'm not seeing any in the chat. Okay, great. So just really quickly, I kind of want to talk about the pre-apprentice life cycle. So I know that Norman walked through kind of what the pre-apprentice life cycle is. So just to kind of give you a reminder, the pre-apprentice life cycle tracks participants' progress through the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program from the initial program outreach. So that first time you interact with them, all the way through kind of post-transition follow-up. So once they've left the program and now you're following up with them. So each of these stages demonstrates an integral step in preparing participants to enroll in a registered apprenticeship program. And with support from your team, you guys will guide these participants through the strategically planned and carefully implemented program that will specifically address the needs of the grantees and target population. So why it's important to kind of understand this is this life cycle is going to not only guide your participants, but for the next training, we are going to be walking through each of these steps step by step. So you get to experience kind of what you guys will be working on with each of these participants. Many of these steps are very likely things your team already does, so they'll be very familiar to you. But we want to walk through these because for us, they're each integral and they each serve a purpose. And so in our next training, the Grantee Manual Session 2 training, we're going to be going through Grantee Manual Section 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that will track this entire life cycle. So it's important to start to get familiar with this life cycle, get familiar with this graphic, because everything that goes into interacting with participants is involved in this life cycle. So any questions about the life cycle before I move on to our final section of our training? Okay, not seeing any questions. So we will shift to our final section, which is about partnerships. So during this section, or by the end of this section, you'll be able to differentiate between partners and providers. So you will notice much of the language that we use here. This is how DCEO is defining these items. So it's important to understand these definitions because it's how these items will be discussed with our team, with the Office of Grants Management, in your grant agreements. So it's important to understand the DCEO definitions of these. So we're going to differentiate between partnerships and providers, understand the requirements of grantees / recipients, sub-grantees / sub-recipients, and contractors / vendors. And then we're also going to utilize strategies for leveraging resources and collaborations. So let's go ahead and get started. And let's jump right to talking about partnerships. So this is section 3 of the grantee manual, partnerships, providers, and leveraged resources. So partnerships are typically a formally structured long-term relationship that is created by entities that work together to address complex issues to achieve a shared goal. Effective partnerships often bring unique capabilities to the relationship to support program outcomes, and they may include a wide variety of organizations. So it could be unions. For some of you, it's going to be community colleges, local workforce boards, employers, contractors. If you are with a business association, you know, your businesses that are part of your association, secondary schools. So really, there are partnerships that are available in many different fashions. So you really want to start for this program, start reaching out to those partners, either strengthening those partnerships, developing new partnerships, because that's going to be really a marker of success in this program. So I want to just get some feedback from you all. So this is just going to be in the chat feature here. But what type of entities have you currently partnered with? So I just want to get a sense of who are some of those critical partners that you all are working with right now. So again, that's just in the chat, not in Mentimeter. So who are your partners? Okay, so trade unions, great. Employers, unions, social services. Okay, awesome. But it seems like people kind of have these existing partnerships, which is really great. Decatur Building Trades Council, IBEW, unions. Okay, great. Yeah, so these are all going to be really great transition partnerships, wraparound service partnerships. Definitely great to have, and often are the hardest relationships to build and the most important, because the goal of the program is to transition into a registered apprenticeship program. So Rochelle says unions, employers, other social service entities. Okay, great. So those are all great partnerships. We encourage partnerships at basically any part of that life cycle. So there is no part of the participant life cycle that we are against partnerships. We know that taking care of participants, helping them get through these programs can be a lot for a single entity. And so we really encourage you to seek out these partnerships, and they can be formal, informal, but really start to look for those partners if you don't have them in key areas right now, and you feel like your organization should have them or needs some support in that area. So let's talk a little bit. So partnerships in the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program are a requirement, but they're also a real benefit to you. So kind of what I was just saying, you know, it's really meant to help you ensure that these participants achieve their outcomes. So partnerships can create bridges that allow you to comprehensively respond to the needs of your pre-apprenticeship program and participants. It's an expectation that pre-apprenticeship programs provide wraparound services, student support services, and transition participants to a DOL registered apprenticeship. So all of you who are saying you already have these relationships with contractors, with unions, with employers, those are great partnerships, especially for those transitions. So now we're going to get into what I was saying before, those DCEO definitions of what it means to be a partner versus a provider. So a partner, these are typically formally structured long-term relationships. So entities that work together to address complex issues to achieve a shared goal. So you and your partners will both contribute to that goal, and then maximize those outcomes. Now, it's not necessary that providers contribute. So now this, when we're talking about providers, it's not necessary that they contribute to solving complex issues or even that they have joint strategic goals. So providers can contribute by effectively delivering a needed service. They can be an extension of your program's service team. And then they're going to focus on specific tasks and activities. So whereas a partner, you're going to have this long-term, likely formal relationship, you're working towards the same goals. Your providers are individuals who are going to come in and kind of achieve one task. So if their task is come in and help with outreach and recruitment, come in and do instruction, that's kind of where you see this difference. So partners are kind of comprehensive, working towards that same goal. Providers are really focused on kind of more narrow tasks. So your partners may include a grantee / recipient. So here at DCO, all of you would be considered partners to us. Or it can be a sub-grantee or sub-recipient. So if your organization is providing grant funding to another organization, that would be considered a sub-grantee. Now, a provider is going to more fall in the category of a contractor or a vendor. So again, that's when you're seeing, if you hire someone for marketing, if you hire someone to just do instruction, that is the key difference between your partners and your providers. So let's walk through these kind of role definitions. So a grantee / recipient, if we could just switch to the next slide. Just want to make sure we all have these words because sometimes they get a little bit, there's some overlap with them. So I want to make sure that you guys can all see these role definitions. So a grantee or a recipient / grantee is a non-state entity that receives an award directly from the state awarding agency to carry out activities outlined in the award. So all of you are considered by DCO to be a recipient / grantee. So you'll often hear us talking about, grantee network. We'll refer to all of you as grantees. That is following this DCEO definition. So next up is sub-grantees / sub-recipients. So this is a non-state entity that receives a sub-award for the purpose of carrying out part or a portion of the state award. So these are going to be those or other organizations that your organization might give grant funding to. So you become the grantor, they become a sub-grantee to you. And then contractors / vendors. These are non-state entities that receives a contract to provide goods and or services for the awarding non-state entity. So individuals that you all hire to provide specific actions. So the contract creates a procurement relationship. So when you contract out services, that creates in the state's perspective, a procurement relationship between the contractor and your organization or the contractor and your sub-grantee. Now, the reason that that's so important is because, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I really want to emphasize this point. Regardless of whether you contract out work, you have a sub-grantee, at the end of the day, your organization is considered the grantee, which means anything that contractor does, anything the vendor does, that sub-grantee does, all of that comes back to your organization. So you really want to make sure you're signing contracts, partnering with individuals that really are focused on doing the work. You have solid contracts with them. They understand the expectations, because all of that could come back to your organization, even if it wasn't your organization who necessarily did that action. So I just really want to make that very, very clear for everyone as far as from like a compliance standpoint. So we're going to now move on to kind of just talk about what each of these roles mean for you. I'm not going to walk through this chart too in depth. This is in the grantee manual, so all of this is listed for you. But I just want to make sure that you all can see the difference between these three levels. So for all of you, for grantees and recipients, you all had to be GATA pre-qualified. You are all on the record for the grant. You receive funds. There's if you partner with anyone else, we would ask you for an MOU. You can be a nonprofit. You must report your program participation and outcomes through the Illinois Works reporting system. And then you must maintain 3 to 5 years of program documentation. Now you can see that differs for subgrantees and contractors and vendors, but it's really important to understand kind of not each category is required to do the same things. So it's important if you contract with anyone, you have a subgrantee, they understand and you understand what the state will be asking of those other entities. So next up, let's jump into our question here. So if you have created any new partnerships for your pre-apprenticeship program, so since finding out you got this grant, has your organization started any new partnerships? So this one is in Mentimeter. All right, so any new partnerships? Okay, so Decatur Building Trades, great. Okay. So I know we had some other partnerships that were listed in our chat earlier. So housing, and I know a lot of you have really good partnerships already, so you might not have needed kind of new partnerships. So that's great. So, you know, I want to talk a little bit about kind of setting up these partnerships. So like we said, normally they're going to be formal partnerships. So you might see some formal partnerships with the city or with Skills USA, housing, Decatur Building Trades, healthcare organizations. Often you'll have kind of more informal partnerships with labor unions. Often they will not sign a formal kind of MOU or something like that. But if you were going to have a formal partnership, one of the ways to kind of solidify that partnership and something we would be looking for from your organization would be a memorandum of understanding. So this is a formal agreement between 2 or more entities. Although they're not legally binding, they do communicate a degree of seriousness. They outline the expectations for each partner, who is accountable for who. It develops this kind of mutual respect and trust between the 2 partners. So MOUs are required for partnerships between grantees and subgrantees. So if you do plan to kind of award another entity grant funds, we would be looking for an MOU. For contractors or vendors, we would be looking for a contract. You don't need to kind of proactively submit that, only if we request it. But you want to make sure that any sort of formal partnership you have is documented, so you kind of everyone understands what the expectations are. So I'm gonna jump to now. We have I'm actually gonna skip this question because I want to make sure that you all get a copy of a sample MOU if you do not have one. A lot of you already have partnerships, but I want to make sure that you guys have access to this. So if you would like a copy of a sample MOU, Gia right now has you should see a file transfer up on your screen. So you can see there's a couple of examples that Gia has provided here. So feel free to go ahead, download those. I'll just give you a couple of seconds just to download them. If you select them up at the top, you'll see that download button will light up and you can download the MOU. Feel free to use these if you don't have an existing template. If you already have one, you definitely can continue to use that one. But we just like to provide examples in the event that you don't already have one and you need one. So now that we've done that, let's talk a little bit quickly about accountability. So like I said earlier, as a grantee, if you have any contracts, if you have any partnerships, if you are going to be expecting that any other organization is doing work for your organization, on behalf of your organization, delivering the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program or any aspect of it, you just want to make sure to be or to understand that your organization will be held accountable for any actions that they take. So it's important to keep that in mind when partnering with other organizations, with contractors or vendors. At the end of the day, anyone that you work with, your organization will end up being held accountable for their actions. So you want to ensure that they are in compliance with what you're asking of them, because we will expect you to be in compliance of what we are asking of you. So clearly, partnerships and other relationships can support your ability to respond to each of the program elements and support your ability to achieve your program outcomes. However, it's important to acknowledge that identifying and cultivating successful partnerships requires hard work on all parties. So for this reason, we have provided in the Illinois Works reporting system, and we will go over this on the 26th for administrators, and then on the 30 or on that following week for all staff. But we're going to talk about the partner engagement tool in the Illinois Works reporting system. So that engagement tool actually allows you to enter in your partners and then track those interactions that you have with your partner. So if you're trying to cultivate a new partnership, if you're trying to get a new partner to help you, do a work site visit or something like that, you can track all of those engagements in Illinois Works reporting system. Again, we're going to delve in deeper into that during our session specifically on the Illinois Works reporting system. But it's important to kind of keep in mind that, that tool is there for you, and it's really meant to encourage that type of engagement. All right, so next up, and we're getting close to the end here. I know we are a little bit over planned time. I apologize for that, but let's talk about quickly barriers. So Yolanda did a really good job talking about how do we overcome barriers. So if you all can, using Mentimeter, just let us know what are some strategies you can employ to overcome barriers to developing successful partnerships. So what have you and your team done to really overcome, some common issues and have been successful in creating those partnerships? So G, I think it's we just need the next question on Mentimeter. Perfect. Thank you so much. Persistent communication, regular meetings, great. Okay, yeah, so all of these are definitely potential barriers. Credibility. Yeah, so some other ones that we've seen, and I'll keep kind of reading the ones you have: reluctance to commit, location. So yeah, so focus on money and not on outcomes, poor listening skills on the side of partners, unwillingness to acknowledge or confront issues or challenges, a hoarding of information might be a potential barrier, developing cliques or silos. And so let's go to the next question, because I think I flipped these questions for you, so I apologize. But we're looking at the kind of barriers at first, and then what are some strategies you can employ to overcome those barriers? So some people said regular meetings, open communication. Those are great ways to kind of overcome those barriers. Making sure that you are, always in communication with those partners. They understand what you are looking for, what your expectations are. So what are some strategies you can employ to overcome barriers to developing successful partnerships? Communicate, telling a story. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great answers. Support. Communication. Absolutely. Keeping in contact. Yeah, so I think you all you all understand that, that communication, so being receptive. So not only being able to receive communication, but also active listening, but also being able to provide clear communication. So clearly outlined expectations. Thank you, whoever just wrote that. It's a great lead in. So freely sharing that relevant information, having those regularly planned meetings, agreeing on how that work is going to be done, even submitting progress reports, another form of communication. So all of these are great. The more you kind of communicate with your partners, the more they understand, the more you understand where everybody stands, the stronger that partnership is going to be. So there definitely are some specific actions that you can take to overcome these barriers, as you've all outlined. So thank you so much for kind of adding those in. And some of these are ones you all have already addressed. So let's talk about how we what are some other kind of best practices for keeping up with your Illinois Works partnerships. All right, so some of these tips and techniques, again, these are some of the items that you all have already said. So, delivering reports on time, communicating concerns and issues. If you're unsure, you can always ask us. We're more than happy to help you. But, freely sharing relevant information, submitting progress reports, active listening, focusing on outcomes. All of these are great tips and techniques. We are recording this. We will also provide these slides. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these. And a lot of these are already overlapping with your answers. So you guys are already kind of on track for developing these effective partnerships. So we're going to move on now to kind of our final slide here. And this is just focusing on our upcoming onboarding. So before I hand it over to Gia just to do feedback, I want to talk a little bit about our onboarding schedule. So I know we do have kind of a mixed audience today. We do have some new grantees and some existing grantees from last year. This onboarding schedule here is specifically for new grantees, and then any new hires or individuals who want refreshers from our existing grantee pool from 2022. So you can see here all of these session titles, a short description of each of those. All of the dates, times, registration links can be found on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So you can visit that site. You can get all of these kind of description information, understand what each of these sessions will outline, and then you can go ahead, you and your teams can register for all of these if you have not already. But the next session that we have coming up for our new grantees is going to focus on IWRS, and that is specifically for administrators learning how to use the Illinois Works reporting system. So that is on January 26th at 10 a.m. So if you are an administrator and you have not signed up for that yet, please do so. We are going to be walking through kind of a technical training. So I'll be walking you all through as you kind of navigate the system to start to learn how to use IWRS. So just want to kind of give a plug for that one if you haven't registered quite yet. Again, all of the dates, times, registration links are available on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So are there any questions about partnerships? I know I went through that kind of quick. I didn't want to keep you guys too far past time today. But are there any questions I can answer now, or otherwise we can grab them in email if you don't have any right now.
Christine, we do have a question in the chat about being approved for the trainings once they've registered.
Yep. So what happens with WebEx is just as a security measure, they ask us to approve anyone who's registered. So as long as you have registered, you're in the system, I will go through and approve everyone early next week. So you will get your link and everything to access it on Monday. So if you haven't yet, don't worry about it. If you've gone through the registration process, you are in the system. I will also send a reminder on Monday. So if for some reason you didn't register, or you didn't get the link, you can go through that process there. But thanks, Dan. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Gia. We really want your feedback, so if you can please stick with us for just a couple more minutes as Gia walks through our feedback session here. Thank you again so much for attending today.
So I know everyone is a Mentimeter Pro right now, so we'll just go through these really quickly. If you could answer the first question, please share your views on this training by rating the following statement, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. If when you are looking at Mentimeter, you don't see this particular question, there is a blue button at the top that says go to slide, and it will take you to the current slide. Okay, the second question is, the course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about the subject matter. Thank you. The next question is, I plan to apply what I learned. This is an open-ended question. What improvements might you recommend? Thank you for this constructive feedback. This is very helpful. What did you find effective? So as we make updates moving forward, what components should we keep? Mhm. Okay, we have one last question here. Is there anything else we need to know? So is there anything we have not asked, but we need to know to help improve the quality of these programs? Okay, so we're still getting a couple more responses to the last question. For those of you who have already responded, I want to say thank you so much for your time, engagement, participation. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to hanging out with all of you during the next session next week. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.